baby, cradled in your mother's shawl. The sight, they say that they don't want you, and now you haven't got a home. So go to sleep, my little tinker. Let all your troubles pass you by, for you have no place to camp now, and that's a tinker's lullaby. Since your mother died and left you, you had to fend all alone in the land of saints and scholars, and now you haven't got a home. So go to sleep, my little tinker. Let all your troubles pass you by, for you have no place to camp now, and that's a tinker's lullaby. Though your clothes are torn and ragged, and your hair's a silvery grey, when you die and go to heaven, and you will find a camp down there. So go to sleep, my little tinker. Let all your troubles pass you by.
Ring-a-dilly-i-o, he stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. Well, about that time, two young and lovely girls just happened by, and one says to the other with a twinkle in her eye, "You see that sleeping Scotsman so strong and handsome built, I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath the kilt." Ring, ring, diddle-diddy-i-dee-o, ring-i-diddy-i-o, I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath the kilt. They crept upon the sleeping Scotsman quiet as can be. They lifted up his kilt about an inch so they could see. And there, behold, for them to see beneath the Scottish skirt was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Ring, ring, diddy-diddy-i-dee-o, ring-i-diddy-i-o, was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. They marveled for a moment, then said, "We must be gone. Let's leave a present for our friend before we move along." As a gift they left a blue silk ribbon tied into a bow. Around the bonny star the Scots kilt did lift and show. Ring, ring, diddle-diddy-i-o, ring-i-diddy-i-o, oh, round the bonny star the Scots kilt did lift and show. Well, the Scotsman woke to nature's call and stumbled for the trees. He lifted up his kilt and he gawks at what he sees, and in a startled voice he cried to what's before his eye, "Ho, lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see that you won first prize." Ring, ring, diddly-i-dee-o, ring-a-diddy-i-o, oh, lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see that you won first prize.
If nobody thought little for you, John, and nobody gave a rap about me, and we lived all alone in the battle of life, what an awful world this would be. If there was no such thing as a flag in the sky as a symbol of comradeship here, and if we lived as the animals live in the woods, with nothing held sacred nor dear, and if selfishness ruled from birth to the end, never a neighbour had we, and never we gave to another in need, what a lovely, sad world this would be, surely. If we were rich as the richest on earth, like John, and strong as the strongest that lives, and yet never we knew the delight and the charm of the smile that the other man gives. If kindness was never a part of ourselves, though we owned all the land we could see, and if friendship meant nothing at all to us here, what a horrible, dreary world this would be. Life is sweet because of the friends we make and the things that in common we share, and we want to live on, not because of ourselves, but because of the people who care. For it is giving and doing for somebody else. On that all of life's splendor depends. And all the joy in this world, when you've summed it all up, is found in the making of friends.
And there'll be no more sobbing when he comes to singing his song. Sweet song, wake up, you sleepyhead, get up, get out of bed, cheer up, the sun is red lit, laugh and be happy, I'm in love again, and I'm walking through fields of flowers. The rain may glisten, but still I listen for hours and hours. I'm just a kid again, doing what I did again, singing a song. When the red, red robin goes bobbing along. Oh yeah. When the red, red robin goes bobbing along. Sharing our song, side by side. Don't know what's coming tomorrow. Maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we travel
gets worse as you go up in gears. While trying to cut silage near Comer, your gearbox blew and I sat there in tears. Oh, Leyland, you're some tractor. I think I'll go and buy a new John Deere. Well, I sold a dozen sheep and I bought you on the cheap. As you stood in the yard, your rifle fresh, I drove you round the field, but you whore you wouldn't yield. Your brakes they simply locked up and we crashed right through the gate. Oh, Leyland, you're some tractor. Your synchro box helps me go down a gear. Your steering, it is brutal and it gets worse as you go up in gears. While trying to cut silage near Comer, your gearbox blew and I sat there in tears. Oh, Leyland, you're some tractor. I think I'll go and buy a new John Deere. Well, you started every day, Jez, we turned the power ahead, and your cheap to run when diesel oil was dear. I drove you round the yard, it's true, I drove you fairly hard, but you took revenge by needing 4 new clutches every year. So this is where we are. I've better tyres on the car, and I have to charge your battery every night. Your radio is broke, you 4 different kinds of smoke. I think it's time to trade you in, ya big blue heap of shite. You're some tractor. Your synchro box helps me go down a gear. Your steering, it is brutal and it gets worse as you go up in gears. While trying to cut silage near Comer, your gearbox blew and I sat there in tears. Oh, Leyland, you're some tractor. I think I'll go and buy a new John Deere.
watched I love you from the blackboard of my heart.
If you'd been true the way you should and not have gone astray, those tears would not have fallen down and washed my words away. No need to talk, for if the chalk should write these words again, it would be for someone else, not things that might have been. My tears I washed, I love you from the blackboard of my heart. And it's too late to clean the slate and make another start. I'm satisfied the way things are, although we're far apart. My tears I washed, I love you from the blackboard of my heart.
You asked me how I was today, and I didn't have the words to say I'm not okay and struggling. But sometimes when the ends won't meet that I can't see tomorrow, and there are days when only the grace of swans bring comfort, when I pray to the herons for the peace of their stillness and watch as cormorants disappear beneath the water surface, wondering how quick it could take me from this. But I swallow back the sorrow, looking anywhere but his eyes, and said, "Ara grand, Jesh, or how'd you be? I'm sitting up and eating a bit, thinking flippancy might be enough to bring us back to the ease of talking football and politics." But he knows all this. He sees through it. Because he too sometimes struggles for the words, and he too seeks his solace in the birds. And I have heard him talking to robins like old friends, listen to his excitement when a goshawk landed there, and then as he watched the sparrows, the tits, the wrens, the finches and the turtle doves, I've seen the kindness and the care and love with which he feeds them, as though he needs them. And on the darkest mornings, when even the sun pulls the covers tighter, lamenting the summer's loss, I've seen his footprints in the frost, the feeders filled to the brim, and him, coffee in hand, standing and watching with the door ajar, as though to say, "I am that you are." Because his winter is for the birds, his spring is for the flowers, his summer is for the ocean and the sun between the showers, and the harvest of his autumn is as much within as without. But as we stood there, as two grown men looking out over the garden of his Eden, every plume and wing became an angel, as every song they'd sing became the psalm of a sacred offering to the great I Am. And in that moment, as the swallows rushed away down the wire for their own journey south, and a blackbird called to a thrush picking berries from a briar, he reached out his knowing arms and drew me in. And I knew him then, less as a father than as a friend.
An old Suffolk, well, a young Suffolk boy, we used to stand and chat to each other, and he used to tell me lots of stories about his life on the land with shy horses and ploughing and kind of all those things. Even though he was in his 80s, he got me to feel his bicep one, because he was a small, wiry man. He got me to feel his bicep, and by heck, he was still a really strong man. And I dedicate this story to him. It's a story that I heard, and I thought, well, the person in this story is going to be called Arthur now, so this is my dedication to Arthur. For Arthur was old, and he sat there one day at his table in his little kitchen, drinking a cup of tea, and there was a rat-tat-tat on the door, and he went to the door and he opened the door, and there stood Death. And he looked in Arthur's eyes, and Arthur realised that Death had come for him. And Arthur said, "Come in, come in." And Death went in, and Arthur said, "Please take a seat." And Death took a seat. And Arthur sat the other side, and he poured him a cup of tea. And Death sat there drinking this cup of tea, looking at Arthur. And truth be known, he liked Arthur. And he said, "I'll give you another day, Arthur, but I'll come tomorrow, but I have a question for you. If you can tell me what your mother made for you on your 10th birthday, I'll give you another day." And with that, Death left. And Arthur thought, I'm never going to remember what mother made me on my 10th birthday. That was such a long, long, long time ago. Well, Arthur did what he always did all his life, really. He went out into the garden, he had a little chair out there, and he sat with a cup of tea, just kind of, and all the little birds came in because he would feed them. And all the little birds came in, and he found himself talking to the garden birds. And he said, "Oh, if only I could remember what mother made for him on my 10th birthday." And one of the birds said, "We remember, for you shared it with us. It was a cake with fruit and nuts in, and you shared much of it with us." "Thank you," said Arthur. And Death came the next day, knocked on the door, and Arthur said, "Come in, take a seat." And Death looked at him and he said, "Well, Arthur?" And Arthur said it was a fruit and nut cake. Death. "I'll give you another day," he said. "I've got another question for you. Tell me what mother made for you on your 5th birthday." And Death was gone. And Arthur, the same thing. That evening he was out in the garden with his little breadcrumbs and whatever for the birds. He spoke again and he said, "If only I could remember what mother made me on my 5th birthday." The bird said, "We know. Your mother made beautiful biscuits, and you shared all the crumbs from those biscuits with us." "Thank you," he said. Next day, Death came and knocked on the door. Arthur opened it. "Please come and sit down." And they sat down. Death was looking at him. He said, "Well, Arthur?" And Arthur said, "It was biscuits." He said, "Death, you're good. But I like you," he said. "I'll give you another chance." He said, "Arthur, I want to know what was the first thing your father when your father held you in his arms on the day of your birth." And Arthur thought, well, that's impossible to answer. And Death left him, and he said, "I will be back tomorrow." And Arthur sat in the garden with his cup of tea and the bread comes to the birds. And he said to the birds, "Oh, you can't possibly know this," he said, "but what did my father say to me on the day of my birth when he held me in his arms?" The birds looked at each other. "We don't know, Arthur. We don't know." The birds hung their head, for they knew what this probably meant. And the next day there was a knock at the door. Arthur opened the door and it was Death. "Come in," said Arthur. "Please take a seat, have a cup of tea." And Death looked at Arthur. He said, "Well, Arthur, do you know the answer?" And Arthur took a sigh, and he stood up, and he went to the window, and he said, "Let's just listen to the birds for a moment." And Death looked at him. "How could you possibly have known that is what your father said to you on the day?" And with that, Death said, I will leave you, Arthur. And Death went. And it was many more years before Death paid another visit. That's a story that I dedicate to
the old schools, they had wooden floors in them and there was not a hole over in the corner. The school, you could say, it was never unoccupied. When we moved out, the rats had come in and it was only for cleaners, the rats had cleaned the desks and cleaned any crumbs of bread that would be around the floor. When we moved out, they moved in again and we read the song there. Poor Sam, so. Some of you people might remember back to a time when Irish schools were more akin to torture chambers than places of learning. Thank goodness those days are long since behind us and the young people of today go to school in an atmosphere of peace, harmony and encouragement, which is as it should be. But even you people that will remember back to the days of the torture chamber, you might be inclined to agree with the saying, your school days, the happiest days of your life. Hey, when the school when I was 4 and a half, there was a big discussion going back and forth over my head. My whole future being decided. You think, was I consulted? Was I? Would I go to school at 4 and a half, or would they keep me till 5 and a half? That's all. It was decided I'd go to school anyway. So I was dragged away from my mother's apron like a calf taken from a cow. And I was dragged sobbing off to school. I had my big brother Martin already at school. He said he'd mind me. See, he was way older than me. He was 5 and a half. And off he brought me by the hand, he brought me off to school and said he'd mind me. And the first day at school, we were, he was in the big boys class and we were in the small, the baby's room. And those of us that had all the brothers and sisters, we were let off at 2 o'clock, you see, in the rest of the school, which was 3 o'clock. And those of us that had all the brothers and sisters, we were told to wait around the schoolyard. And if the day was wet, we were told to wait in the porch. Well, I needn't be telling you people about the Irish weather. Only we spent a lot of days in the porch. And the very first day, sure enough, we were in the porch. And whenever I look out the door I gave, there was the master from the big boys and girls classroom. He was going out to his car and I tried to be on, grown up and all. I stuck my head out the door. "How are you, Penny?" says I. He never answered me. And then he went back into the school again. And after a while, we had an invite from his classroom. Sherlock Holmes in short trousers. We all had short trousers. Who called the master names? He asked. No one answered. He asked again a second time. Who called the master names? No one answered. Come on, over to the master's classroom. We were all lined up over along single file, left, right, in the door and lined up along the back wall like the men of the 1916 rising. And whenever I look up the classroom I get, there was the master sitting behind the desk and you know, the first impression, he had so many wrinkles in his face, I wasn't sure which one was his mum. It didn't take us long to find out. So as he got up and as he passed the mantelpiece, he laid his hands on a big stick and he arrived down in front of her. Who called me names? He asked. No one answered. He asked again the second time. Who called me names? Some informer called out my name. They're still around, you know. I got 4 slaps in each hand. Let me tell you that I walk out that door in a dejected, sorry state. Oh, 'tis I that knows how Napoleon must have felt then marched off to St. Helena after the Battle of Waterloo. And for years later I wondered, what in the world did they say was so wrong? Did I get his name wrong or what? No, I didn't. And I often thought I'd have been nearer the mark if I had shouted, "Hello, jackass!" And I remember then I was in first class and I couldn't grasp the 2 times tables. I was called a dunce and there was a dunce's cap taken. I was put standing out facing the wall. There was a dunce's cap taken down from the mantelpiece and put on my head, and there was I left standing and facing the wall, and all the boys and girls laughing at me. And I knew there and then the world would be a better off place without me. I just wished a hole would open up in the floor and swallow me up. No such luck, of course. I looked out of the corner of my eye, could see a hole over in the corner, and I wondered could I fit down there. No. And then didn't I see the 2 beady eyes of a rat looking over at me? And you saw something. He had a compassionate look in his eye. I think he understood my predicament. He felt sorry for me, and sure I felt sorry for him. And there we were, the 2 of us, rejected by society. And from there on in, my school days went downhill. So when I hear a person say, "Ah, your school days, the happiest days of your life," I says to myself, what a lot of shite.
It was early next morning, with a sad and broken heart, I stood on the hearth of my father's floor, saying it's sad we both must part, with my mother's arms around my neck, and the tears her eyes did blind. I tore out from her arms in the home I left behind. We travelled through old Ireland till we came to Queenstown Quay. 'Twas there I saw a steamer bound for America. 'Twas there I saw a steamer bound for some foreign clime. From there I took my last fond look at the home I left behind.
I dry my eyes as I fondly remember the days of long ago when I was young. In my father's house we were poor but we were in love. No TV, but good times there were plenty of. And my mother hummed old melodies, and we all sang along in my father's house when I was young. Oh, come the time when I'm grown older, my own children are reared and gone. I wonder then if they fondly remember the days of long ago when they were young. In my father's house, a smile would greet you at the door, a friendly word. Weary travelers, they was welcome for. And when night time came, neighbors rambled in. I stayed till 12 or 1 in my father's house when I was young. Oh, the years have passed, times are changing. The Ramblinghouse is almost done, but still I hear the laughter of children, just like long ago when they were young. In my father's house, we were poor, but we were rich in love. No TV, but music there was plenty of. And my mother hummed old melodies, and we all sang along in my father's house when I was young. In my father's house when I was.
I would connect with my Irish heritage, and it was always something that was alive in my family. And so, when I was a young adult, I decided to fly over and start connecting that way. And I bought this unlimited bus pass. That doesn't exist anymore, but it was one stipulation: you had to always cross an international boundary. So I thought, well, that's simple. I'm going to Ireland. I'm going to start in London. I'll buy the pass. I'll just go over. My family's from part of my family's from Northern Ireland. So I went in and I said, I need to get a pass to Northern Ireland. They said, oh no, that's the same country. I said, oh, it's Ireland. I didn't know as much about the history as I know now. So I said, well, then they said, go to Dublin, buy a ticket, and then they'll send you across. So I went to Dublin, it was my birthday. I thought I wanted to end up in my homelands for my birthday, so that was really meaningful. Spent a couple hours in Dublin and said, okay, send me up to Belfast and I'll bus up from there. And they said, oh no, it's the same country. You have to go over to Liverpool. Get the bus pass, they'll send you back on the ferry over to Belfast, it'll all be fine. I said, okay, it's my birthday, I'm going to do it. I get there 6 a.m. in the morning, I get to Liverpool. They said, oh, the bus station isn't open until 11 a.m. It's a Sunday. So 11 a.m. rolls around and I said, okay, please, just send me to Belfast. And they said, no, you can't go to Belfast, that's the UK. And I said, well then send me back to Dublin, I'll just buy it. They said, no, you have to buy an extra bus pass now. And we argued for a while, and I said, well, you know what it says online here is that Eurolines is shite.com is available, so I'm going to buy that. They didn't listen, so we went back and forth a bit. They refused to give me a pass back to any part of Ireland for free, so in my stubborn youth I said, well then, they said, we'll send you anywhere else in Europe. I said, well then send me to Norway, because that's the furthest. I have a family up there too, that I have family roots. So I went off on the bus towards Norway, it took a long time. And I got to Copenhagen, there was a transfer, and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, I wanted to be in my homelands, but I also was young, and I'm waiting there for the bus transfer, and hours went by and it never came, and so I looked and they tricked me. It was 3-day overlay. So I met some activists. I had nowhere to stay, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I met these activists. They said, take the train in Copenhagen to the end of the train line, get off the train, there's a King's Park there. And it's open 24 hours. You're not supposed to camp there, but you have your hammock tent. Just camp in there, it'll be fine. If they catch you, you're Canadian, just say sorry, they'll let you through. And so I went up there and I got off the train, and there was these bonfires being built everywhere. And I thought, wow, there's some sort of gathering tonight. And I asked, and someone said, oh, there's fireworks. I thought, oh, that's not really explaining what it is. But I went in the park to find a spot to camp, and I found this old open-air barn with a trough, and right behind it I could hang my hammock. So I thought, okay, that's perfect, it's out of the way. People in the morning won't see me. I'll come back. So I'm going to go into town, get some food, check out this gathering, whatever it is. So I walked around trying to find food. All I could get was ice cream and a beer. So I was having that for dinner. And it got darker and darker, and people were gathering, and the fireworks were about to start. And I started asking people, you know, what is this? But I was surprised, actually, quite a few of the folks I talked to didn't speak English, or not very well. It was an older town, it felt old. And just as the fireworks were about to start, I found these three women, and I asked them, and they said, oh yeah, we speak English. I said, what is this gathering? It's huge. And they said, it's the burning of the Witches' Day. I said, what? What? And so they said, well, in this town, every year the Inquisition would come and we would have to burn the witches. But we knew, and as a town, that those were our storytellers, those were our medicine people. In any religion we would follow, they would be welcome too. So they were resistant to that. But then they shared that over the years, they had to, sometimes people would volunteer because of the deep, sometimes the church, at the time, that part wouldn't believe that there was none. And so there was this really deep memorial, it turned out to be. And just as they finished telling me, the fireworks fell over and started hitting the man who was lighting them. And everyone gasped, and he rolled on, it was big fireworks, he rolled on the ground. He jumped back up and started lighting them again, and everyone cheered. And I thought, maybe they are witches, I don't know. And so then it all ended, and I thought, wow, it's late now, it's dark. I went to go back in the park, and it suddenly didn't seem so welcoming as it did earlier. It was dark, and I just learned about all this history. So I went, okay, and I'm going to walk in through the dark hedge. And I crunch, and I looked down, it's the biggest snail I've ever seen. I didn't even know they had snails this big. And I thought, oh no, that's not a good sign. So I went down and I made my way through the forest in the dark to my spot, strung up my hammock, and I went to sleep, or I tried to sleep, and I got woken up 3 times. The first time, stuff was falling on my tent. I thought, oh well, it must be rain, but I looked up and I remember there's a roof, and something had landed, so I checked and it was soil was falling on me from the roof of the barn, I guess. That's kind of weird, but I ended up drifting back to sleep. And the second time, I heard voices everywhere. It's from coming through the bushes and torchlight. And I think I was awake, I'm pretty sure. It felt very vivid. There was a lot of people, and it was a bit scary. I was like, what is this? Is this some sort of march they do? Is it the middle of the night? And so they slowly went by, and I eventually fell back to sleep again. And then the third time I woke up, and there was these white deer all around me, right up to the tent, and eating, and so peaceful. And I'd never felt so peaceful and alone, kind of alone in this natural space. And then the morning, I stayed up through that, and the morning came, and there was jackrabbits doing what jackrabbits do, and a fox that was stalking them, and it was so magical. And I thought, okay, I needed to get here for some reason. So this is more to the story, but to keep it short, this time when I came, I got straight on the bus to Belfast. And for some reason, the look on the driver's face, and I went, haha, you couldn't stop me this time. That's just how we got here. So thanks for listening.
From the hills, Maggie, where first the daisies brown, the creek and old mill is still, Maggie, since you and I were young. Oh, they say that I'm feeble with age, Maggie. My steps are much lower than them. My face were written page, Maggie, and time all along was the plan. They say we have lived our time, Maggie, as they did a song that we sang. But to me you were as fair as you were, Maggie, when you and I were young.
To a mother who stood in the doorway of her cottage as the day went on, in a sunset red as blood. Robbie, her son, yes, her only son and only kin on earth. Her husband was dead when young Robbie came to take his place at the heart. Now, they say that the birth saved the shock of the death and saved her from losing her mind. But another shock waited. Her baby was born, and sad to relate, he was blind. So she guided the first groping steps of her son and taught him to travel by touch. And as day followed day, she taught him to play a little, but never too much. First she had hard work to do every day at the castle, earning the money to live, pay rent on the cottage, buy food for them both, so she had few leisure hours she could give. And she worried and worried about her young son, till at last came that wonderful day, and a little dog came into the yard and barked, a lovely young collie astray. And Robbie and Rover, yes, that's what they called him, at once were the firmest of friends. Now, it's one of those stories that makes a man wish. That's where the narrative ends. Young Rover became his companion at play, his guide on his trips into town. And the mother, she knew, although nervous at first, that the dog wouldn't let her son down. Tender, loving, fiercely protective, from dawn till the day was done. That was Rover, the collie, with bright, eager eyes, the dog who looked after her son. And now, as she watched them at play on the street, she felt a warm tug at her heart. Then the roar of an engine, the sound of a car, and she felt herself giving a start. Young Robbie ran out to the midst of the road, and she felt her breath die in a scream. You know how it is when there's naught you can do. It happens in every bad dream. Then sudden a flash as Rover he leaped and pushed her son clear to one side. But the wheels of the car caught the dog on the back, and giving a whimper, he died. 'Twas only a dog, so the car travelled on. It must reach its objective or bust, while there on the road lay the young collie dog, in the wake of the car and its dust. Only a dog, just a bump on the wheel. That's what the driver was thinking as he sat in the lounge of the pub where he had sought to continue his drinking. While back on the road stood a little blind boy who didn't know play days were over. He wondered why nobody answered his call. Over here, Rover. The mother, she took her son to her breast, knelt by their faithful friend. She tried to explain that young Rover's life had come to a tragic end. At last, poor Robbie understood that gone was his playmate and joy. For that traveller he took not only a life, but the eyes of that little blind boy.